days late.
You're welcome.
In fact, you had to go grab.
And I can just,
Oh, okay. And I noticed you didn't have.
I was working my way that way. So you have conversation was intense.
Yes, yeah.
It's easier.
Or do I?
Yeah, I threw the packet on here.
Right.
Oh, it's nothing. It's the guy who's talking.
Yeah, I mean, that's all because, and I need
It's be around, that's what I'm trying to find.
we have the
Demo in my head, but
side of the conference rooms of
Norman?
Duggan.
Norman and I have, and then the city of Juvenile, and that's that little.
well, then
that's that little-
Park is mine, Dave.
Never know.
They would like that. Maybe they don't want that.
Remote.
Yeah, I don't know where Park
You guys
is.
like-
I don't know if kind of keep that where we're at.
That's
Maybe have my map. So it's like, oh, I left.
very good. Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, it's no big deal. Yeah. We just.
I lost my beginning. No, that's the end.
Good morning, JJ.
Morning. Thank you.
Email might start. Around here.
Yeah, I wonder if they roll it out like on a regional
Yeah.
basis. And Reese. Just in time, I did all my spread over.
All right, everybody hear me?
We can.
Yep.
Yep.
All right,
No
We'll
public
get
in the
going.
room, Steve.
pardon me.
There's no public here in the room, just county staff.
Okay, okay, anybody called in, Brian?
No.
Okay, we will start the meeting, and according to the statute, I'm gonna be on technology pursuant to Minnesota statute 13D.02. And I will be here in my place at Oak Grove RV Park and 190 Radford Boulevard, Pensacola, Florida. And the public is invited in person or remotely by phone. And this meeting is live streamed. And I do know people do look at our live stream, and is it also recorded, Ryan? So they can, yeah. So I know people do that. So welcome everybody that's hooked up electronically. We'll call the meeting to order and rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance
Allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. I take it then there's nobody for public forum.
That is correct.
All right, we'll move on to the adoption of the agenda. Any additions or corrections?
Mr. Chair, this is Dave Menke, just one correction on letter 8D, the extension committee. The agenda states 2:30 as the start time. It actually starts at 3 p.m.
Okay,
Ludwig will move.
Lupgren will second.
thank you. Motion by Ludwig, seconded by Lovegren. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
District 4, Commissioner Waldham.
Yes.
District 5, Commissioner Ludwig.
Aye.
District 1, Chair Holland.
Yes,
District 2, Commissioner Moore.
Aye.
District 3, Commissioner Lovegren. Aye. Thank you.
we'll move on to approval of the minutes of February 1st, 2022 County Board meeting and summary for publication.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes in the summary.
Second.
Who made the second?
More.
Moore. Motion by Lovegren, second by Moore to approve the minutes. Any discussion? Debbie, you want to call the roll?
District 5, Commissioner Ludwig.
Aye.
District 1, Chair Holland.
Yes,
District 2, Commissioner Moore.
Aye.
District 3, Commissioner Lovegren.
Aye.
District 4, Commissioner Waldham.
Yes.
Thank you.
then we'll move on to minutes of the board's reports and correspondence. We got a zoning board meeting minutes of December 16th, 2021.
I'll move. More.
Lupgren will second.
Motion by Moore, second by Lovegren to approve the zoning board minutes. Any discussion? If not, Debbie?
District 1, Chair Holland.
Yes,
District 2, Commissioner Moore.
Aye.
District 3, Commissioner Lovegren. District 4, Commissioner Waldham.
Yes.
District 5, Commissioner Ludwig.
Aye.
we'll move on to the consent agenda. You've had that in front of you. Anybody has any questions?
Ludwig will move consent. Oral second.
Any discussion? If not, Debbie, you want to call the roll?
District 2, Commissioner Moore.
Aye.
District 3, Commissioner Lovegren.
Aye.
District 4, Commissioner Waldham.
Yes.
District 5, Commissioner Ludwig.
Aye.
District 1, Chair Holland.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right. Moves us up to the Health Insurance Committee report. Who's going to take that one?
Okay, I'll start and then Matt can finish if he wants. It was a good meeting. Ended up just a little bit above where they thought that we were going to be as far as claims. So we still have, trying to see where it is,
491.
491 in the, okay, 491,000 in our reserves. One of the things that is kind of different is that our prescriptions are really high and our outpatient is really high, but we were just talking about surgeries that they're doing now, knee replacements, hip replacements, cancer treatments where it's all inpatient or not inpatient, but they send you home. So our outpatient has really increased where before it was the inpatient that was higher, but in all reality, it's cheaper doing it that way. So that's a good thing. We had 12 high claims above 50,000. We have one person that's on a medication that's over, it's $23,000 for one prescription. Those are the things that are taking us down, but we're actually doing pretty well.
Terry, I gathered that, and Matt, the prescriptions, is that trending higher? Or is
Yeah,
that where it's always been?
prescriptions were higher. It was 30% of the money we spent was prescriptions.
But where in previous years, where is it trending more than in previous years? Do we know? Maybe we don't know so well because
Right.
we may not have that data.
I think it is trending higher. We have three people that are on prescriptions that are high. The one, it doesn't know if it's an open-ended or if it's going to be stopped. They're questioning whether it's going to be a continual prescription. The other two looks like they're short prescriptions, so they'll go down. But I think that the prescriptions were higher because it seemed on Justin's radar.
Yeah, I don't know if 1/3 of the cost for prescriptions is out of the norm, or is that normal? And if it is out of the norm, is there something to mitigate it? And I'm sure you guys are looking at that.
The other thing that was brought up, and Jackie did send out an email to all the employees on that, but because of legislative changes, anybody who wants to go to our pharmacy for United Healthcare is Walmart. You can go there and you can get some COVID test kits to have at your home. I'm trying to remember how many it is that you can get per month.
6 or 8 a month.
Yeah, which is a lot. And then that's covered with our insurance too, so we'll see a little bit different. The other thing that I thought was interesting was the county spent $117,438 in COVID claims. So that would have been the testing, medication, whatever it was that they did. But I mean, that includes the testing that they did too. So, which I didn't think was too bad.
No, we actually ended the year good.
But I think the thing that sticks in my mind is if we were on our old program, that $500,000 would have stayed with resources or Blue Cross, correct?
Right.
And now it stays in our pool. So if we can have a few more, I mean, it's going to help with us evening our rates, and that's what we were going after.
Yes.
Mr. Chair?
Yeah.
So I think Jackie can maybe give a little more info on the prescriptions. I think there were some particular issues, and I don't know if she has any of the historical data at hand, but we can certainly get that historical data too. Jackie, do you?
Hi, Jackie Cuevisto, HR Manager. So yes, Terry's report spot on with the prescription drugs that are trending up. And at my fingertips, I don't have the prior year drug numbers, but I can get them very easily. I'm sure I have them in my file. But something that Justin noted regarding the trend in the rising drugs, that many of these drugs are in a tier 2 level, meaning that there's no generic available. So it's not enabling consumers to have a cheaper alternative. So that will be an item for review.
Yeah, and Mr. Chair, can I add, or
Yes.
Jackie, can I add something too? And I remember him talking about, typically with some prescriptions, you have a course end date to the prescription. And some of the ones that were trending higher are prescriptions that people need to be on for a long time. So that,
Exactly.
And that's probably
right. Maybe the rest of their life,
Yeah, and that just isn't a phenomenon that happened this year.
No. That's what insurance is for.
Right.
Exactly. I think I'm happy. Thank you folks for sitting on that committee. I'm happy with the fact that we have you know, we got $500,000 in our insurance account that we didn't have a year ago. So that puts us in a better spot, I think. Thank you. Any other questions on that? We'll move on to Personnel Committee.
Yeah, we had a,
Yeah,
we had a meeting, and, well, yeah, you were there too, right? So basically we had, pretty much the only action item was, we had a Public Works, person, quit. And, so we just wanted to acknowledge the resignation of highway maintenance worker Jordan Jusak effective February 4th, 2022, and approve backfill the position and subsequent vacancies that may occur due to internal promotion or lateral transfer. And that's really the only action item. I'll make a motion to approve that.
I'll second it. Terry.
okay. We have a motion by Moore, second by Lovegren to accept the Personnel Committee's report.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I would just like to say thanks for taking that meeting for me.
Oh, no problem.
I
Any
do-
discussion? Yes?
Yeah, I do. So we're talking about in here doing, recruitment and possibly doing,
I can get on that after this.
oh, thank you. I'll wait for Josh to hit on it because he's going to do that.
Yeah, I just wanted to do this. This is only action item, then I'll.
Okay.
discuss Other stuff. after
Okay.
that.
Okay.
Any discussion? If not, Debbie?
District 2, Commissioner Moore.
Aye.
District 3, Commissioner Lovegren.
Aye.
District 4, Commissioner Waldham.
Yes.
District 5, Commissioner Ludwig.
Aye.
District 1, Chair Holland.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yep.
Then, Mr. Chair, I'll go on a little
Yep.
bit here onto the rest of the report.
Yeah.
So the other thing we did discuss was, we did discuss insurance, which basically was the same thing we just talked about. And then, corrections is looking at doing, and I think they've scheduled it now, a job fair. So it's on site, looks like it'll be at Pine City and Sandstone. I guess I don't remember
Yeah,
exactly.
and Jackie is on the line and she can give a little more detail on the dates and times and locations.
Okay, yeah, you want to do that, Jackie?
Sure. So as Josh said, as Commissioner Moore said, we do have 2 hiring events scheduled for corrections officers. They will be taking place Monday, the 28th of February in Pine County, the Pine County boardroom, and will be held from 9 a.m. until 1 p.m. And the second event will be held in Sandstone at the North Pine Government Center on March 3rd, 9 o'clock to 1 o'clock. We're really excited about these events, and they will consist of on-the-spot screening interviews. And also we will have current staff available on site to give some insight regarding what it's like to be a Pine County employee and to be part of the corrections staff. So again, we're really looking forward to these events and hope that we're able to meet some new people.
Mr. Chair,
Whoop, okay, go ahead.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I just have a question. So as part of that, are they gonna, is it gonna be the jail staff or the county is willing to train the individuals themselves all up from if they pick them?
Yeah, and Mr. Chair,
Yes.
Commissioner Ludwig. So the training, so the intent of the recruitment days is to just generate interest and, give people an opportunity to talk to current correction officers about the job to see, if they potentially have an interest in what the job entails. And then once they're hired, there's a formal training process, and we've typically sent people to a training academy. And then there's also a significant amount of on-the-job training.
Yeah.
That our staff do.
Good. Okay, that's exactly. It's good for this, any recruits to know that.
Yes, yeah, and it's a job that does not require prior experience. And so it can be a very entry-level job. We also have a little capacity to bring people in at a little bit higher rate if they do have some experience. And then connected with this recruitment event, we've been looking at our social media outreach. And we've expanded that. And so now if you go to LinkedIn, you can find that Pine County has a presence there. And I'm looking at Ryan. I don't know if we have or will have an Instagram presence as well to complement. We've been on Facebook for a number of years now, but we're trying to get the word out there in different methods.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair,
Yes,
so are we looking at doing referral bonuses? I don't know who we should be looking at.
we did have that discussion. We are not, at least didn't come out of that with a recommendation at this
Okay.
point.
Okay, I just saw that it was referenced. I was wondering where that was going.
It was a conversation piece of trying to piece some things together. So we were going to look further into it and just see if that's something we would entertain or not. But we can and can't do. That was just some discussion.
Okay.
I just think it's a great idea to go proactive with local.
Commissioner Ludwig, this is Jackie again, and I am currently working up, I guess you would call it a proposal or information for the board to consider regarding, what would it cost? What does it look like? What would the parameters be? So stay tuned for more information.
Thank you.
And part of the discussion was the corrections is like at a critical, we have, what was it, 8 or 9 vacancies or Jackie, I don't remember right now.
I think it's 5 full-time and 2 part-time.
Okay, yeah. So, it's at a point where people are working an extreme amount of hours trying to fill in and it's burning them out. So we're really looking, just kind of honing in on that department right now, because that is a 24-hour, 7-day a week. You have to have it. So, because the sheriff did talk a little bit too about his deputies getting to that point too, where we're not having enough deputies. So we were just kind of brainstorming what would make a better place that people would want. It's an employees market right now, not an employers. So they can kind of go anywhere, do whatever, and it's not necessarily money. It's just what the deal is right now. You can go somewhere. So the sheriff had a few ideas that he's kind of looking into to maybe, if someone's on the fence, maybe seal the deal.
Yeah, well,
And it's small stuff, it's not.
we're seeing that trend, or Minnesota is in EMS and everything else. They're burning out, people are leaving, and sometimes it's like, why would I be on call for minimal pay and, and miss everything? And then they move to like the nurses or whatever, there's always a movement because it's so stressful on that any first responder level. And the jail is in that, because you're sticking, custodial people in their face and, then the courts come, but it's a stressful environment.
Mhm.
Part of what we were talking about too is killing the perception of, like I told Jackie, a guy I know just recently got hired at the state prison in Rush City and literally lives 2 miles away from the courthouse. And I go, well, I know we're looking for corrections officers. Why didn't you go apply there? Well, they don't pay enough. And we looked at what was it, within 50 cents or something like that was the pay. And so, we're just trying to get that perception out there that, some people think working for the state or federal government is much better than working at the county. So that was part of what we were talking about. Maybe with this referral thing is you have a current Pine County employee explaining to people how good it is to work here and benefits and everything. Because you put that wage on the board and that's all anybody looks at. And, maybe let's look a little deeper into what else is included in that. So there's a lot of stuff going on there.
It's amazing the jobs that they're getting bonuses to join now. It's
Mr. Chair, maybe just to bring this around. So it sounds like there's enough interest on the part of the commissioners that Jackie should continue to put some information together, and we could have some discussion at the March 1st county board meeting in conjunction with the ARPA funds discussion. Because if there were any kind of bonuses, referral bonuses, retention bonuses like that, that you wanted to implement, those would likely be ARPA funds that we would use. So is that make sense?
I think so, David. I think because like Josh said, we're at a critical juncture in our jail, especially. We can't just say, okay, guys, everybody go home for 48 hours. No, we can't do that. It doesn't ever get to be Friday for them. So we've got to come up with some creative ways to keep that staffing level where we need it.
Yes, and I like the Department of Corrections say you will have this many employees there when you have. So it's not dictated by us. It's just the rules of custody.
And Mr. Chair, I asked that question to Rodney when he was sitting there, and I just said, so what if you closed let's just close and board out some of them? Could you bring and that's what he said. He goes, no, you have to have this maintained. So if you got, like he said, if you got rid of the female population, in that whole section, whatever it is, it wouldn't eliminate one or two people, so we're staffing. So, and that's the thing is less people adds to more work and burnout, you lose more people, and it just is a snowball effect. So we're just looking at ways to try to get ahead of that. Well, we're already behind, so.
So, I mean, I
Trying to
think,
catch up.
yeah, and I think to that point, Steve, you had a presentation, I believe, last week at CMJTS, the Central Minnesota Jobs and Training Service, about the workforce. And then you shared some information that you and Mrs. Chafee is Barb Chafee.
Barb. Yep.
The executive director there shared about the workforce. And you made I thought some insightful comments about employers who were doing better than others. Were those who were trying to figure out how to attract and retain workers in the current environment, whether that was through some use of technology and remote work, or whether that was some flexibility where it's allowed. And those are all great tools. We have a lot of jobs that do not allow much flexibility or much remote work, right? If you're a correction officer, dispatcher, child protection, worker who has to do the investigation and meet with those families, we have a lot of people who have to literally come to work to do their jobs. And so I appreciate the conversation, and that we're going to continue at March 1st. And I know, because I've already gotten some feedback, that if any program that is developed is going to be seen as advantaging some and disadvantaging others. And so it's not going to, there are people who are not going to, anytime, they're just going to be multiple sides to whatever program that you do decide to do if there's a consensus for offering any kind of a bonus.
Yeah, I agree, David, because everybody wants the bonus. Everybody that works at the county would, if we picked one department that got a bonus, everybody that worked at the county would be eligible to recommend somebody. And so we're not cutting somebody off at the knees for getting a share of that. Anyway, Jackie, I hope you can come up with some facts and figures about how much it would. I think we need to know what the bottom line is. If it's something that we want to pursue, we need to know, we got to put a cost figure to it, psychologically, we have to get our arms around, is this what we want to do? Is this where we're at now? I don't know. But come prepared in a couple of weeks to have that discussion.
Will do.
And
got something,
certainly,
Mr. Chair.
pardon me?
Oh, sorry, I got something too, before Jackie. I'd also like to look at, and I think we should as a board, is exit interviews.
Mhm.
And we can
We do those.
kind of, yeah, but we can look at, if we're looking at bonuses, we should look at also to get the insight of the employee that leaves.
Yeah, I
Really get our
believe
mind
we,
wrapped around everything.
Sure.
believe we do that, JJ. At least where we can. Thank you. Anybody else? Anything else on personnel? If not, we'll move on to Health and Human Services. Matt, you
wanna
want to
take-
start out there?
I can start out. But I want you to do some of it too, because you're a little more versed on parts of it,
Yeah,
but I will.
yeah, I will. I'll jump in on the Blue Zone stuff.
Yeah, great. First thing I want to go is right back to what we were just talking about with staff and workload. They're having the same thing in Health and Human Services with, staff being stressed because people are out, people sick, somebody has to pick up the work. It's the same thing in Health and Human Services. The cases don't go away. They just keep coming in and somebody has to take them. So we have to be aware of that and that whole program too. And then.
Hey, Matt, can I
yeah.
jump in there? Because
Yeah.
I think the other thing we talked about with Health and Human Services is it may not be a Pine County employee that isn't being found, but it's a group home that we have people that are receiving services from the county that can't find help. That
I'm going there.
Okay, you explain it.
That's my next step.
Okay.
So that's the U-Care, right? And the adult programs. So through U-Care, we take care of X number of clients, and U-Care must be looking at their bottom line or whatever so they're trying to push 300 more clients onto Pine County that will be on their workload for our staff. And I don't know how we push back against that or how that works, but you're working on it, right? Your first response, I'll say, was a pushback, say, we can't do it. We don't have the staff. So I don't know what happens to them. I don't know if they're going to retaliate and say, okay, well, if there's a funding stream or whatever. I don't think they can do that because your clients that you're handling still need funding, right? So that's a problem. Is that what you were talking about, Steve?
Well, not really. I was talking about places like the group homes up around Sandstone that closed because they couldn't find workers to work in them. And now our people that are administering those clients that they have are having to find new homes for those people because it's not a Pine County employee that's the work shortage. It's private contractors who can't find employees who are taking care of people who are on, let's say, MA, and they have a caseworker. And so now where does that person go live? Because the group home closed.
Does that fall to some of the personal care attendant stuff we were talking about too?
Yes.
Yeah.
And the other thing is we have preached the gospel forever about people staying in their homes as long as possible. And we've found out through a lot of studies and just anecdotally that people do very well if they stay in their homes, but they may need some help to stay in their homes. They may need a chore giver. They may need 1 or 2 days a week. They may need a nurse to come in and set up their pills and visit with them. If those people are not available, now that person that's living at home can't live at home. Where does that person go?
I know.
Because they're not able to fill those, the contractors are not able to fill those positions. They're not Pine County positions. We contract for a lot of those services, and the contractors can't find the workers.
And then we have Lakeside Medical Center, that's closing. That's another, what, 18 or something? 18 people that we have to find.
Yep.
And that's more like a nursing home setting, isn't it? So no, that's another thing that you don't have a lot of time.
Yeah.
I don't know, it's just, it was like a lot going on in the health and human services world, but our staff, I'm just amazed at how it's just like our sheriff's department. They get the work done.
Right.
You know, and I'm sure they have to triage, take care of the worst stuff first and work your way through it, but that's all they can do, but it doesn't make that job any easier. And if you're missing somebody because they're sick and somebody else is picking up the slack because it has to be taken care of. So it's just something we have to be aware of as a board in this environment right now and it falls to the recruitment conversation because people will just say, I'm burning out, I'm out of here. And then it's hard to hire. So things we have to think about. I'm not trying to beat a drum for them. That's just the reality of the world right now.
I'll beat a drum for them. They had their normal job that kept them busy for all of their hours every single day, every single week. And then all of a sudden COVID hit and they had COVID thrown on top of that. So even when we'd be talking with the state health committee with Shaq and all they would talk about is COVID, but they do so much more. How can we help them do their more? So, I will give them a shout out for everything that they've done because they've not only accomplished their regular stuff that they did a very good job on, but then they got dumped on with a huge pandemic that took way more of their time. So, yeah,
I think
they are fried.
I think the whole county worked through COVID pretty well.
Yep.
And so I think we should pat ourselves on the back there, but it's at the expense of some of our employees. I think they're getting tired. So anyway, I don't know. Then there was this discussion on blue zones, which is fascinating. And I'm going to let you take that, Steve.
I will attempt to. Is Becky in the room?
Yeah, she's here.
Becky is here and
Okay,
Sam is
if I-
also online.
Okay, you guys help me out if I start going off the deep edge. But anyway, blue zones to me is an exciting thing. And if you remember several years ago, we started down a community health plan to try to make Pine County a healthier community. And so Sam has done some background work, her and her staff, amongst everything else that's gone on in the world about maybe one of the best tools that we could use is this blue zone organization. It's a concept basically of how to get people thinking and acting healthy. And it's the Buetners, I don't know if any of you have ever read about them, but they've done a lot of work over the last 30 years with education, with schools and in their travels around the world. And they discovered these pockets of people who live happily and with very few illnesses into a ripe old ages. And then they begin to ponder why does this happen? How can a group of people that live in Loma Linda, California, or in the jungles of Central America stand out amongst everybody else and having these really wonderful lives, and they're happy and they're healthy, and there's a host of factors, and I sense maybe you guys got some background reading that you can look at. If not, Sam will get you a bunch of materials on blue zones and what they are. But I'm excited that I think it's something that we can latch onto. I think some of our healthcare providers are ready to be some willing partners with us to help promote this blue zone concept. And so I think I'll kind of leave it at that. And if Becky and Sam want to fill in all the gray area I left, you're more than welcome. But I think we need to do some reading and mull it over. And I think it could be a very exciting time for Pine County.
Yeah, Mr. Chair. So I'll just say, I read Albert Lee, Minnesota did this, and it's a pretty successful thing already down there. So that's a quick, and I can forward anybody that stuff if you want to look at it.
It was where?
Albert Lee.
Albert Lee.
It's not hard to get it going in a community. It just takes a whole community to get it going. So it's going to be a buy-in in that sense.
Okay.
Mr. Chair?
It's not some supplement you buy at 3 o'clock in the morning off late night TV or the internet that you drink called Blue Zone.
I still do that. I'm never awake at that time.
It's wait till you get older, Terry, you will. But anyway, it's a concept that you have to, the community has to endorse, and it has, involves a faith community. It involves education. It involves, of course, the medical people, and it involves us to be the champions of how we keep people healthy and get them healthy.
Mr. Chair, Sam has had some of those initial conversations with a number of partners. I don't know, Sam, if you want to share just to get commissioners up to speed with the community support that you've been seeing.
I can definitely do that. So yeah, we've been doing outreach for the past 2-3 months slowly, because COVID still is a thing. So juggling those. But we've been connecting with schools. All the schools are on board with partnering with us about this. Haley just did outreach through Pine City Chamber of Commerce to all the businesses within the community. We've already gotten really good. People are really excited about it. Lots of good feedback saying, yes, please tell us more about this. With the ask just being come to a one night kind of presentation talk end of April, just to hear more about what this could look like for Pine County. So businesses are interested, schools. We've been in conversations with both Blue Cross Blue Shield and United Healthcare because they obviously have a vested financial interest. And if you're healthier, it costs less money to take care of you guys. So we've been talking with United particularly along with Essentia, because they both have kind of a bigger picture beyond Pine County of what this could look like if United at a very high level partnered with Essentia at a very high level to roll this out across all of Essentia's market eventually. So they're both really interested and excited about this. We're still working on getting connected with Welia and the churches. We're reaching, if anybody has good connections with a particular faith group or church and they're interested, connect with Haley. She's got kind of a running list of everybody we've reached out to. Dave is working with me to connect with the band because we obviously want them on board. And Dave's also been lovely in connecting with all the city administrators and all of that. So we're really trying to hit all sectors because it really is, you need everybody in the community to buy in to really see the full impact that this could play. I do have a video. I don't know if you want me to show this. It's 3 minutes. It's just like a basic overview of Blue Zones, how it works. It's like literally 3 minutes. I don't know if people want me to show it.
I think it'd be marvelous if you got it queued up.
I do.
And you could do it. Then we've got something to think about.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, let me share my screen. Oh, Brian, you gotta let me share my screen.
Give it a try now, Sam.
Yes, there we go. That, and I want to share my sound. Here, optimize for video clip. Yes, maybe. Sure. All right, let me know when you can see it.
You can see it.
Fabulous. All right, here we go.
We got it.
What's the secret to longevity? In Blue Zones, parts of the world where people live the longest, people don't try to live longer. It just happens to them. Over the last 10 years, our Blue Zones research team has traveled to 5 confirmed places where people live the longest. We discovered 9 common characteristics that help identify a path for up to 12 extra years of a healthier life. How? Let's start with some facts. We know that only 20% of how long the average individual lives is because of genes. The other 80% is lifestyle and environment. We spend $110 billion a year on diets, exercise programs, and supplements. Some have the right idea, but offer a quick fix, not a long-term solution. If you're overweight, it's probably not your fault. Candy bars, sugary drinks, and salty snacks tempt us where we work, shop, and socialize. More than half our calories come from junk food. No wonder 2/3 of us are overweight. Science shows that self-control can take us only so far in improving our health. Eventually, we have to improve our surroundings. We make hundreds of mindless decisions every day that affect our health. By changing small things like the proximity of food in your kitchen, making the active option the easy option by getting a dog and getting rid of mechanical conveniences, you can start adding years to your life. Blue Zones has gathered all the best practices in the world for creating a healthy environment and produced a list of best practices for people and communities to choose from. For individuals, it starts by taking the Blue Zones Personal Pledge. This free pledge helps make the healthy choice in your life the unavoidable choice. The pledge helps you move naturally all day long, have less stress in your life, make it easier to eat more nutritious food with fewer calories, and connect more with the right people. On the community level, we start by examining all of the things that influence our everyday lives. Since most people spend their time within 10 miles of their homes and work, we focus on their life radius. We have over 150 evidence-based interventions, nudges, and defaults that have worked elsewhere. Then we work with city leaders and organizations to choose the ones that are right for their communities. We optimize building designs for better health. We've identified changes that can help people at schools, grocery stores, restaurants, and workplaces eat less, eat better, move more, and connect socially. We help people find their purpose, their passions, strengths, and help them find a place to put those gifts to work in the community. We know that volunteers weigh less, have lower medical costs, and have higher well-being than people who don't volunteer. Science shows behaviors and attitudes are contagious. So, we help connect groups of people ready to change their health with other like-minded people. Others around them start to do the same. Pretty soon, an entire community can change for the better, and the Blue Zones Project is here to help. Our experts work directly with your community to develop the expertise, motivate the masses, and reverse engineer your physical environment for a perfect storm of influence that leads to a critical mass of change. Blue Zones Project cities have seen obesity and smoking rates drop while seeing their well-being rise. This adds up to not only millions of dollars in savings, but more importantly, a better place for our children to grow up. Take the pledge today. At first, it takes some commitment, but before you know it, it'll be second nature to live longer, better.
So, there.
Thanks, Sam.
Any questions about that in general? I can send, I sent Matt some stuff, Commissioner Ludwig some stuff about this that he can forward along. There is also, if you go on YouTube and you just search Blue Zones, there's an hour-long presentation. If you feel like dedicating an hour to learning more, and it really goes into the science behind it, what they found, and then also some of these sites that they did it, including Albert Lee, and the results they saw, and it's really impressive.
Thank you.
Steve, I think we got one more point to cover there.
Yep. Okay, go ahead.
It's on that, the Minnesota Adult Abuse Center. The state changed the rules. It used to go to the law enforcement, the sheriff's office, when abuse or neglect happened to an adult. Now it's going to go through the SSIS system to Health and Human Services and not go to law enforcement, which means then it has to be monitored, the Friday night through the weekend thing to get picked up. Somebody has to be looking at it, or some signal has to happen in their system because it's going through the computer system.
Why would they change that?
I don't know. I don't know why, but the state did. And so that's another thing that the Health and Human Services has on their plate that's kind of new. It's just out there.
Terry, I think you said, why did they change that? We have no idea, but I think it's one of those things that when we get a chance to talk to our legislators to make them aware of it, because if you're a county and you have 20 Beckys or 40, you can rotate that around pretty easily and say, okay, you're on call this weekend and twice a year you're on call. When there's basically 2 Beckys in Pine County, Becky and who else? Becky Patrick. Anyway,
He didn't look like he wanted you to
No,
say his name.
I think Becky and Barb have been splitting that.
Becky and Barb. Okay, it's quite a burden on their shoulders, but it's quite a burden to the county because we have to react to those things.
Right.
And we know that in Pine County, you can still be in Pine County and you could be on call and you could have your device with you and you might not get an email depending on where you are in Pine County. And so I think it's a problem, and Becky will keep us apprised of how it's going. But I think it's something we need to help our workers with by pointing things like this out. Just don't work in counties our size.
Yes. It's one of those changes that probably doesn't look like much on paper to the state, but has a huge impact on employees downstream.
Right.
That's all I have.
Anything
Mr.
else?
Chair. Nope.
Any other questions from anybody? If not, we'll move on to the 2022 Aquatic Invasive Species Program.
Good morning.
Morning.
Hi, Caleb. You got it.
Hi. My name is Caleb Anderson. I'm the Land and Resources Manager in the Planning and Zoning Office, and I coordinate the Aquatic Invasive Species Program. Each year we get some funding from the state of Minnesota to do prevention and education and control of aquatic invasive species to help keep the lakes healthy and good for recreation and all that stuff. So each year, we also coordinate a coalition of lake associations. So there's about a half a dozen lake associations that we meet with quarterly. And they've become great partners for things like zoning as well, but aquatic invasive species, or AIS also. So a lot of the money gets granted out to those partners, and they help kind of be the boots on the ground for different projects. So the AIS plan, we kind of put out a little request for proposals, and they sent applications saying, here's the funds that we request to do projects. AIS control, herbicide treatment and mechanical treatment on our infested lakes, Cross Lake, Pokegama Lake, Sand Lake, and Sturgeon Lake are lakes that have aquatic invasive species in them. And those lake associations are diligent about treating each year. So they requested what ends up to be about $69,000. One of the things that's hurt a little bit is the plants have gotten wise to the chemistry and the herbicide, and they're getting a little more resistant. So the groups have shifted the products, and some of the newer products are more expensive. So that's been unfortunate. There's a chance that number will come down. There's some other grants that they're also applying for that may soften the need on what they would like from our program. So I kind of divide the plan into different categories. Monitoring, we partner with it was the St. Croix River Association. Now it's the Wild Rivers Land Conservatory, I think is the new name. And they do programming throughout the St. Croix River Basin. And they have folks dedicated to aquatic invasive species. So they come up and they test for zebra mussels on all of the lakes, on the more recreational lakes that we have. There's about a dozen of them that they visit. And they also do test or do some monitoring for lesser known species along the major riverways, the kettle and the snake, for rusty crayfish and purple loosestrife, things that kind of, as you look at the St. Croix River scale, things that can kind of compromise the integrity of that whole river system. So things that are, those are a little out of our staff capacity to do, so it's been worked well. They also do a program, the Rivers Are Alive program, where they've done this the last few years, where they're working with several schools. I think it was something like 400 students that they reached last year. And basically just kind of, it's environmental education and includes aquatic invasive species in that. We also do a few things out of our office. The watercraft inspection program is the big one, where we hire about 4 watercraft inspectors to staff the boat landings. So we budgeted some money for that. We do some giveaway items and advertising, educational outreach that we budgeted for. Some of the lake associations, Cross Lake Association and Big Pine Lake Association, this is under the education section, do a lot of articles in their own materials directly to their memberships on aquatic invasive species. So they've requested funds for that. And then 25% of my position is covered by this program through these state dollars. And in the past, we've also hired an intern to kind of assist with coordinating it, and they can help out with some of the other office functions. So that's kind of the nutshell of the program, and then the bottom line comes down to $165,000, $165,929.71 of funds that are kind of would be dedicated under this plan. We pretty routinely underspend, for a variety of reasons. So we've been rolling over funds each year, so we kind of have built up. There's a total available balance of $293,000 this year. So there are no levy dollars attached to this request. So any questions on that plan?
I have one, Mr. Actually, 2. Are there any lake associations that are not aware of this going on? Or is every lake association in there?
They all attend our meetings and
That's right.
get emails
Okay.
from me on the concept.
And they all take advantage of it?
They all have taken advantage of it. They don't all do it each year.
Okay.
They get new boards and people kind of come and go. And
Yep. So then my other question is, like at the big lakes, is there a limit to how much they can get? I mean, could they spend more on their weed control in one season? Are they limited?
Some counties have, in doing this, have set up parameters on how much they want to spend for different types of things. We have not done that to this point. If we wanted to, we could.
And Commissioner Ludwig, is your question,
I think
is if they had more money, could they use it?
that's where I'm going. Could like on a lake, are they like Sturgeon Lake? Are they saying, do they say we only get this much or could we double what they do to hit their milfoil? Just for a number,
We don't have any cap on what we are willing to offer. So they're kind of putting their number on the page of what they would like.
And is the DNR only let them do so much at one time in a lake because of volume?
Part of that is there's parameters for what they'll permit them to try.
I got it. Okay.
So the limit to the amount of weed control that they can do is probably not the county dollars, it's other regulatory issues.
Yeah.
Is that fair?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So where I'm kind of going with that is it kind of keeps coming back but if you're going to hit them with a new one, why not just pound it to the max on a lake, or is the DNR say because they say it doesn't hurt the fish.
Sure. I think it's strategized between the DNR permit and also kind of their vendor that's applying the herbicide. There's some science behind, how much of an area needs to be infested before you get enough contact with that herbicide.
Oh, okay.
So sometimes there's smaller pockets that don't get treated because it might not have the contact time. on the Snake River system, there's been some limited success, and there's concern that part of it is the flow of the river.
Yeah.
Reduce it. So I think we're not aware yet of someone eradicating an infestation.
Yeah.
Doing this, and I think we kind of approach it more as this is kind of just a control to keep those lakes enjoyable, navigable, so people can keep fishing.
Yeah, that's kind of exactly where I was going, because there's sometimes it's pretty choked full in some of those bays up there when I was fishing.
Yeah, understood. And like I said, there's been some troubleshooting through the years as some of the treatments have not worked as well as they'd hoped.
So does that fall in the Lake Association to contact the DNR and say, hey, can we do more? Or does it fall in the DNR? Or they don't check them every year. They can't, I don't think, can they?
They do a survey each
Every year?
Yep.
Okay.
They go out and see where it's at, and they permit it accordingly.
Oh, so then they really control.
So the Lake Association is really driving the boat, so to speak, on where they want to look, where do they want to treat, and they're kind of working with the DNR on that.
Oh, okay, so they tell the
DNR will
DNR.
permit them where they actually see sufficient populations that it's worthwhile to treat. They won't let them just cast it.
Now I got it. Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions for me on that plan?
I think if we don't hear any other questions, we'd be looking for a motion to approve resolution 22-07.
Go move.
Moore, second.
Got a motion by Ludwig, second by Moore. Is there any discussion?
A question, if I can.
Yep.
Looks like from the county cost to non-county in-kind funds doesn't add up. So I'm looking at it wrong.
So
If you go, the 8 to 1250, then it looks like the 280 skipped over, and then it just comes to a grand total of 9250.
So I might have made an Excel error.
Oh,
Those non-county in-kind funds are funds that basically our partners are providing on their own dollar.
okay.
It's not a requirement of the program, but we like to show it because they do have skin in the game for many of these projects, and that's helpful.
All right, that's all I see.
If there's a math error in there.
Any other questions? If not, Debbie, you want to call the roll?
District 3, Commissioner Lovegren.
Aye.
District 4, Commissioner Waldham.
Yes.
District 5, Commissioner Ludwig.
Aye.
District 1, Chair Holland.
Yes.
District 2, Commissioner Moore.
Aye.
Then we will move on to the watershed-based implementation funding agreement for the Rock Lake sub-watershed. This is part of the Lower St. Croix One Watershed, One Plan that I have been the representative to. Holy
Mr.
cats,
Chair.
Caleb, yes.
Could I interrupt for just a second, please?
Yep.
The AIS program was a two-part. There was also a Minnesota DNR delegation agreement that needed to be considered.
It's B, 4B.
Oh, okay,
How do we go move it?
okay.
Lovegren will second.
Okay, we got a motion by Ludwig, seconded by Lovegren. Any discussion? If not, Debbie, you want to call the roll?
District 3, Commissioner Lovegren. District 4, Commissioner Waldham.
Yes.
District 5, Commissioner Ludwig.
Aye.
District 1, Chair Holland.
Yes,
District 2, Commissioner Moore.
Aye.
Thank you.
thanks, Debbie. Now we'll move on to the watershed. There's a lot of paperwork there, Caleb, that gets produced to make a few little projects. Holy buckets.
You don't have to tell me. Yeah, so this is our office's first kind of draw on some of that watershed funding through these watershed plans that we've been participating in. So at once the one watershed, one plan was adopted for the Lower St. Croix, Chisago SWCD serves as the fiscal agent for, it's about 1.2 million for the biennium. And then they subcontract to any partners like us to do the projects. So one of the cool things that's done about this is that there is a match requirement, but that was met by other partners. So we're able to kind of ride on that, and there's no match requirement of us. And then what the project really is mostly a GIS analysis, looking at the Rock Lake sub-watershed, and really to identify the nuances of that watershed, and where we can expect elevated pollutant loads. So we've got a couple of guys in our office that are just phenomenal at GIS analysis. So it's been a lot of fun to watch them work through this. So they can, so this is a topographic relief map. The green area, kind of through that band that runs through the center is a lower lying area. And you can kind of see as you go from towards the north, how the elevation of the landscape rises. So it's all kind of funneling to this wetland system. And then there's not an outline along Rock Lake, but I labeled it. And that's basically the collection point. So then, so we're going to do a few different modeling practices to kind of see where those pollutants are where there may be hot spots, where there may be sinks, where maybe there's landlocked, so to speak, catchments within this area. We expect there to be some of that too. So with GIS tools, we can do a lot of that. So it's $12,500 for the subcontract. We expect most of the work to be done by our field season in May. And so there's a subcontract with Chisago, but then also we're going to partner with Pine SWCD to do some of the actual prescribing of conservation projects to these different areas that we identify. So there's a subcontract with Pine SWCD as well. That's very much a mimic of kind of what we have with Chisago. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Any questions for me?
Mostly a farming impact. Is there other?
Farming and also just altered hydrology. One of the things that all these blue lines, basically the computer analyzes the topography and creates these like collection features, which are the blue lines, which are kind of like ditches and swales where there's funneling of water. And that's where you kind of look at those different features and the land use associated with those features.
Is this, are you looking for a motion? Do we got to do A and B separate or?
However you want to structure it. I guess we're looking for authorization for the county board vice chair to sign both of those agreements.
We can do them separately, I guess. We'll look for 5A approval first.
I'll move that.
I'll second it.
Motion by Moore, second by Lovegren to approve the Lower St. Croix one watershed, one plan based implementation funding sub-agreement with Chisago Soil and Water. Any discussion? If not, Debbie, you want to call the roll?
District 4, Commissioner Waldham.
Yes.
District 5, Commissioner Ludwig.
Aye.
District 1, Chair Holland.
Yes.
District 2, Commissioner Moore.
Aye.
District 3, Commissioner Lovegren. Aye. Thank you.
And now we'll consider approval of basically the same plan, but with the Pine Soil and Water Conservation District.
Ludwig will move the agreement with Pine Soil and Water.
Moral second.
Motion by Ludwig, seconded by Moore. Any discussion?
I do have one quick question for Caleb, and I was gonna ask it and I forgot. So every project that comes through Lower St. Croix, do we have to go through like this? And is that because, okay, and that's because they're not a entity or, so like with Snake River Watershed Management Board, we were talking, one watershed, one plan. We were talking about if you're a joint powers versus whatever the other thing is. You don't, this way it's gotta come to the board. So every project has to go through them, then come through us to approve and then go back. Is that how?
Yeah, whoever the entity of that partnership that wants to do the work would be subcontracting.
Yeah.
Chisago SVC, who serves as fiscal. So in the snake, go ahead.
Well, I think Josh's question is when they set up the thing, and that's what we were arguing in the Lower St. Croix.
Yeah.
And where we will probably change to become a joint powers so that these subcontracts then can go directly from that joint powers, because they'll have the authority to directly contract with Pine County or Soil and Water or whomever.
So then I suppose that entity, the Snake River Watershed.
One watershed, one plan.
Yeah, if they were contracting the work or whatever, there's still going to be subcontracts involved unless there's a staff person of that entity that is doing the work.
Yeah. And I think that's why I'm kind of bringing this up for Terry, because you kind of got thrown into that. But I think that's why we were pushing to be a joint powers a lot with the Snake River One Watershed One plan. And that's what Bowser had said is this works, it's fine, but there's some projects, we have a very narrow window of availability to get it done. If it takes a month to get it to the county board, to get it to the policy committee, to get it here, I mean, we're working on a project and it gets approved in November and they can't get it done, so I think that's why and Steve, you're on this and we've had this discussion too, and that's why this is fine, everything, it's a little clunky.
Yeah, there's some nuance though that I didn't quite. Yeah, because it's it was in the plan to do just this. Basically, all our time has been chargeable ever since we decided to do it and got the steering committee to kind of say, okay, this is good. So the formality of the subcontract is following actual starting the project.
Okay.
So that makes it a little less stumbly.
Okay.
Do you feel like it's efficient enough?
Well, I think our interface with it is going to be limited enough that it's fine from my perspective. I think it'd be a better question for a soil and water board or a soil and water staff almost, because I think they'll probably be drawing on the funds more than we will.
And just Snake River Watershed Management Board was not one watershed, one plan. Really similar, but when a project came to them, it came to the board, to the Watershed Management Board, they approved it. It didn't have to go to the county boards of every deal. Like, I think this has to go to every, or does it just come to us? Okay.
Us in Chisago, we had the full work plan for the 2 years that charted out $1.2 million that went to each board.
Okay.
But then once all that's approved, now basically we have that green. Now it's just the contract under which we're going to operate.
So now if another project came up in this, we would have to do the same thing again though, right? Yeah. We're like the way we're looking at it, it just goes to that policy committee or whatever, and then they approve it. And it just is it's another layer you just kind of take out.
Yeah, I know. And I'm wondering why. Is it a check and balance at some point, or is it just the way it ended up?
It's the way it's structured.
I think the structure came to where it did because we had a lot of people sitting at our table in the Lower St. Croix that weren't used to, joint powers was a term that they were not familiar with. We sit on a lot of joint powers boards.
Yeah.
If the East Central Regional Library was set up the way the Lower St. Croix is. Every time the East Central Regional Library wanted to spend money, Terry would have to come back from that board, get approval from this board and bring it back to that board, and so would every other board. So it just slows everything down. And it's just a matter of efficiency. We trust Terry to go sit on the library board. We trust her to go to the Snake River Watershed Board. We sit on a lot of boards. And it's fine. It's fine that this comes back here. It's just that when I read through that packet, there was like page upon page upon page of stuff to do a $12,000 GIS project. Doesn't make sense.
If it's any consolation, it was boilerplate. And if it's also, the other thing I'm thinking about is just that these are non-competitive funds. That's also kind of the other upside. Yeah, there's some paperwork involved, but we know it's funded. I put in a clean water grant this fall that I spent a fair bit of time and paperwork on, and we didn't get funded because I didn't compete.
So Steve,
Yes.
we've spent probably more time than anybody thought we would on these agreements, but just one more nuance. The actual reason that these are at the Pine County Board is because Pine County is the subrecipient. Not because it's really anything to do with the joint powers or the not joint powers. And so if we weren't the subrecipient, we would not see this agreement, but we're doing the actual work.
Okay.
Is that right, Caleb? And I think the nuance that ties back to the joint powers is it's between us and Chisago County as the fiscal agent, or is it Chisago SWCD? So us and Chisago SWCD, because they're the fiscal agent and not us
Right.
and the joint powers entity.
Right.
Just to hear.
Now, if that gives you a comfort
All
level.
right. Yeah, I think you're right. We spun our wheels a lot of time in the mud here for.
You keep track of where we are on this thing?
Yeah, we got a motion and a second.
More discussion.
For approval. Where are we at, Debbie? Are we for the
think we have a
second?
mo-
For
Yes.
So we
B?
have a second.
B, yep,
We're on B
yes.
and we got a motion and a second.
Yes.
Any more discussion?
Yeah, I
Not-
think, I got one.
Yeah, yep.
On the financial impact portion, I just had to ask my counterpart for a second in case my math is off. But the math is off also on that, so I don't know if that wants to get, or has to get corrected. When you add the 927720 and the 327420, it comes up to a different amount than what.
Gonna come to 60. Yeah.
Yes, we can, that be an edit. The contract if needed.
Yes, if that's okay with the board. Well, we'll double check the numbers, make sure they.
Okay.
Any other? Debbie, you want to call the roll?
District 4, Commissioner Waldham.
Yes.
District 5, Commissioner Ludwig.
Aye.
District 1, Chair Holland.
Yes.
District 2, Commissioner Moore.
Aye.
District 3, Commissioner Lufgren.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay. My agenda went away here. I'm trying to get it back. Okay. Terry, you want to give us an update on AMC Tribal County Training?
It was really good. In fact, what a lot of it was the history of what they've been through that brings them to where they are today. And Melanie Benjamin was stating the second day of the thing, she said, I was walking through the hallway, and not that I was eavesdropping on anybody's phone conversations, but I heard somebody say, I felt like I was in a history class today. And she said, which really you are. So they talked a lot about how we took them out of their homes and put them in schools and told them that their ways were horrible and that they were bad people and that we wanted to make them into white folk. Gave them white names and took away their identity and all of that. And one of the things that they brought up is because they lost that identity, they're still struggling to figure out who they are. And because they took them out of their homes, they didn't learn how to be a family entity as much. So they were saying that's why we have so many kids going out of home, is they're still learning how to be parents because they were taken away from their parents when they were younger. So it was really interesting putting the history behind what's going on today with the drugs and the alcohol and the opioids and the, just everything else. Which was really what the whole training was to bring us up to what they've been through. One of the things that they did that was kind of interesting was the guy walked around and he's talking in Ojibwe and he's rattling and he goes, "Here, will you sign this contract?" And people were going, "Yeah." And he goes, "That's what it was like with the treaty. They had no idea what we were saying, but they signed the treaties and then we put them into areas and took away their stuff." So it was interesting to hear the history from their side. We hear it from our side a lot. But that's what it was just trying to get that understanding between the band members and the county commissioners and the county staff. There's a lot of county staff there that works with kids and families, just to get an idea of different ways. I think it's going to continue to figure out different ways that we can work together better. But for right now, it was just kind of getting the base done. It was interesting. Did you come up with any?
Thanks for going, Terry. I appreciate it. And thanks all the county staff that went. I think it gives us a better understanding all around. I've gone through parts of that training throughout my life, and sorry I missed this one. Then we will talk a little bit about a joint venture we have with Mille Lacs Band, and I would call it a joint project, wouldn't you, Terry, that we have going maybe with the tribe on a corridor of, we could call it our little own corridor of commerce that we're trying to figure out on the east side of Hinckley along the freeway, and how we can make that into, are they calling it industrial park or
Business park.
business park? Business. I knew it was a different name. And
Well, they were bringing
business
up industrial park though yesterday too at that meeting.
Okay.
I think because the one in Hinckley is kind of full, but
What was the term they used?
business park. They actually have some really good plans. Business incubators and all kinds of stuff they've got
So,
some good.
I think what they have rounded up a consultant company to work on a lot of things that normal people don't work with, and that's traffic studies and economic development, and in a whole different light, and to try to put wrap this up in a bow and present it. And I think the county should, we call ourselves a partner, that we should partner with the band and tribe on this consulting group. They seem to be they had a lot of people there, didn't they, Terry?
They did.
They had a lot of experts that they can bring to the table to really look at this area under a microscope and see, give some design concept ideas to our highway department, to the tribe, and to everybody to open that area up. So.
And Mr. Chair,
Yes.
this is a little bit atypical with how we would ask approval for something, but Commissioner Lovegren was able to get us a meeting with field staff, Jack Freeby from Congressman Stauber's office last week to talk about broadband. And we use this as an opportunity to talk about this project and the potential for including it as a community project, which used to be the old earmarks, through
Yeah.
Congressman Stauber's office. And so Jack Freeby suggested that we do that. The deadline is the end of this month. And so the actual request for today is if the county board would want to approve a submittal to Congressman Stauber's office as this project, as a community project. The preliminary application is very short. It's about 2 pages long. That's just a high level what we're planning to do. The detailed application would come next year if we're competitive. And so if you're agreeable at the concept level that we would want to apply as a community project, just as we did with the broadband funding for east of Hinckley. And so we're still in the mix on that, but you know that application was started a long time ago, and we don't anticipate that we'll learn anything more on that until this summer. So if that's helpful, all that we're asking today is consideration to submit as a community project to Congressman Stauber's office.
I think I would like a motion on that from somebody.
I will make that motion. Do you need it clearer than that, Debbie, other than I'll make a motion?
No,
I
think that's fine.
don't, I don't. Okay. I would second that motion. And then if we have some discussion, I would entertain that at this time.
I'd like to add that it was Stantec is their company that we're working with, or that they brought in to do the preliminary study on this project. And they're looking at all options. So, we've got the Highway 23 exit. There's talk about maybe a new exit coming off of the freeway. Part of this is if we go off of the Highway 23 exit, we'll be able to do our bike trail that we need to get incorporated in that too, with the Overstar bike trail that we have. So there's a lot of different things that go in with this. So I think that getting this study done, and then Jack was very positive about if we got this in, that he thought that Congressman Stauber would sign. So yeah, I just think it's a great plan to get things moving forward.
Has the city of Hinckley been involved in this preliminary discussion?
They're being pulled in. So
They're not aware yet. They haven't been there yet.
they're having a meeting. Is it next week?
March 1st, and City Administrator Kyle Morrell is on the video call today, just because he wanted to, I think, hear some of this conversation, because they are a critical player in the larger project. And I think, like many projects, this started as a pretty modest project with the band trying to work towards expanding and improving access to band-owned land along the freeway. And I am just learning the history, but back in 2003, there was some study done with a number of options that didn't go anywhere. So if any of you were around back then, you might remember that. But in any case, I mean, I don't know if Kyle wants to weigh in or not, if you wanted to hear from him, but the city has not been a formal partner at the discussions yet.
Yeah, I just worry, I don't want something to happen where we bypass Hinckley with something,
Yeah, no, I think I noted it started as a rather modest project. When we came to the table and started to look, right, the county taking a larger perspective, we know that the Highway 48 interchange is overly congested, and Highway 23, Highway 61 juncture at 35 is not a good intersection. It doesn't provide access to businesses that might develop. And so in our vision, we would like to come out with a plan that improve that the accesses to that interchange, the actual bridge and structure probably doesn't need to change, but improve the approach from Highway 61, and then improve what would be like a frontage road or a business loop on the east side of the interstate to get Highway 23, Highway 61 up to 48 on the east side. And then also look at a bypass generally following the Highway 133 route to get out to the casino, out to County State Aid Highway 15, so that if you were northbound from Pine City and you wanted to go to the casino, or you wanted to go to the state park, you could take the bypass and avoid the 48 interchange, or you could take that exit and work your way on the frontage road north towards Toby's. through what would be now a significant amount of land that was open to commercial and industrial development.
It would be a awesome project for Pine County and the city of Hinckley, you know, the whole area. So we got a motion to make this application to Congressman Stauber's office. I think at when we talk about ARPA funds, we might also be talking about some money for to go towards Stantec, but we'll save that for a later discussion. Right now, we're looking at a motion to move this project into the congressman's wheelhouse and see where that might lead us. Any more discussion? If not, Debbie, you want to call the roll?
District 5, Commissioner Ludwig.
Aye.
District 1, Chair Holland.
Yes.
District 2, Commissioner Moore.
Aye.
District 3, Commissioner Lofgren.
Aye.
District 4, Commissioner Waldham.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to the Central Minnesota Council on Aging. Things are clicking along. We kind of heard the same thing that we heard from Becky. You know, the aging population that needs help, chore givers and that sort of thing. It's hard to find those workers to code into somebody's home and be the person that does that sort of thing. That workforce is kind of dried up at the moment. So we're working on it. And otherwise, programs are moving along as they have in the past. East Central Juvenile Center.
Yes, we had a meeting on February 3rd. Primary discussion was the way the vote's gonna work now because a half bed got approved with the new joint powers agreement. Anyway, so a half bed gets one vote. Whoever contracts for that, and if you contract for 1 to 2 beds, you get one vote. And if you go 2 to 3, I can't remember how this goes now. It can be 1 or 2, and then 3 gets three votes. It's just a weighted vote system based on the thing. So that's a pretty benign, but it worked out okay. Our surplus at the end of 2021 was $310,506. The group voted to put it back into capital instead of reimbursement back to jurisdictions, which has happened in the past. We have spread it back to the jurisdictions that are investing in the system. But because there's so much old infrastructure right now and they're trying to get caught up because the group voted that back in. And the other thing is this year now we're going to a monthly payment to the juvenile center versus the end of the year payment. And last year we finished probably in pretty good shape. I think we ended up with like a $8,000 bill at the end of the year or something like that. 3,000. And so we probably hit that perfect with one bed really. Because yeah, I know that's right. Because if we were going to do pay as we go, we would have went over that. Would have cost us more. So it worked out good. So we're still in for one bed, which I think is a good thing for us. That's pretty much it, Mr. Chair. If anybody has any questions,
Thank you. Let's see. Northeast Minnesota Transportation Partnership. I went to that and thank goodness we got Mark who sits in on that meeting too as our county engineer. And so he can kind of interpret for me via text once in a while what what they're really talking about, but I am the county board rep to that meeting. I will just mention that at the end of the meeting, we have a chance to ask questions. I have been hit up by some farmers who happen to own land along the freeway, and the freeway fence, you know, that nice fence that was there 30 years ago has really got into disrepair. And so the farmers are wondering, you know, under Minnesota fence law, how come the state isn't keeping up their fence? And so I asked, and they're gonna get back to me. Mark had asked a while back, and they'd said it's a low priority for them, but and it may be if you don't have cattle. If you've got cattle, it's a pretty high priority. And I think just about every one of us have some areas along that freeway where we have some farmers that have cattle that would be affected by a freeway fence. So, well, ask me in a month or so if I've got an answer.
I would do that.
All right. Next, Soil and Water Conservation District.
Yeah, pretty much business as usual. One thing I guess I'd like to just remind again, it was Erin's idea. She wanted to take a moment to mention the state legislative session began. So far, proposals for Bowser funding look promising. She also wanted to remind everyone of the grant opportunities currently open on the Bowser website. And everything else looked good. Business as usual.
Thanks, JJ.
Thank you.
Law Library.
Yeah, we had a meeting. We just had some approved the budget, couple contracts. One of the big things, we've been discussing this for a long time. We got a lot of missing books. Well, not a lot, but at what are they, $400 to $800 a piece? They add up to $2,200 pretty quick. Worth of materials that have been stolen or just misplaced, not brought back to the law library. So the Judge Martin and I think Reese and like I told them, I have no clue what any of these books are, what they do. I don't need to be in the discussion, but they're gonna get them replaced. And then one other big thing is in the law library, they have a council that has the online version of all the books of Westlaw. Well, it just so happens that they're changing their system to make it better, whatever it is. Well, it's another 800 or it went from 703 to the new cost is 821. So per month is what we pay for this. So it's just kind of interesting. They changed it so they could up the price. I don't know. A lot of people get frustrated with this company, but they do a lot of work and it's used quite a bit. One thing I think with this transition, Ryan, they may be contacting you because I don't know if that machine will handle this new one or whatever. So, but I know I told Bonnie just to get a hold of you if she had any questions. So, and work through it. So,
Is there a camera in there?
Yeah, there is a camera. IT put a camera in after all these went missing. But yeah, so it is what it is. And it's just kind of one of them things. I mean, like we talked about, it happened. So.
Are they allowed to check them out or so they can take them home?
Yep. And it's kind of on your honor. There's a box to put in there. It used to be a book, but people can't know what you checked out. So now you fill out a piece of paper, put it in this box and then, but if they don't fill out the piece of paper,
so that the camera sees somebody leave, it doesn't really mean anything.
Yeah.
Look at it. That's what I was getting at.
So. But that was about it. Thank you.
All right. East Central Solid Waste, we had a meeting yesterday, matter of fact. We finally did buy a new packer. If anybody's interested.
How much?
About $1 million. We bought the cheaper one. We bought the Bow Mag instead of a cat. Anyway, that's what the employees wanted. So we went with that. The thing of real interest, I think, is that there is a job that'll be posted soon. It'll be a kind of an assistant to Janelle, and but she needs some help, and the whole landfill needs some help with somebody that can direct people and knows something about construction and that kind of stuff, because that's really what you're doing when you're moving dirt and you're replacing dirt with garbage. And so I think it'll be interesting to see if we get somebody, of course, we want somebody with a college degree in environmental science, and somebody that's been a heavy equipment operator, and all of those job things that we'd really like probably don't fit in one person, but we'll see what's out there. And of course, we don't want to pay probably what even a heavy equipment operator would make after they've been on the job for a few years. But time will tell. We'll open it up and see what we get. East Central Regional Library.
We did the evaluation for Carla, the head librarian. And legislation day is February 22nd, and it's going to be via Zoom. So I'm going to participate in that. It's interesting because every form of government, their thing is, you've got this surplus. If you would just give us the money that you promised us, you wouldn't have a surplus and we would be better off. And so that's the big push coming from the library. Also, I think the biggest, and it got heated yesterday, which was kind of fun because it's normally pretty mellow. Sorry. But it was, somebody brought back up the COVID. They passed the ruling that if you're a vaccinated person, you're allowed 10 days off with if you get sick, where you don't have to use your PTO time. If you've been vaccinated, but if you have not been vaccinated, you have to use your own time. And if you don't have any time, you go without pay. And a lot of them don't have any PTO time. So it was a detriment. And then also, if you were masked versus unmasked, if you were vaccinated, you didn't have to wear a mask, but if you were vaccinated, you had to wear a mask. And so there was the controversy that came with that. And some of the employees brought up the fact that they were being made to feel dirty because they had not been vaccinated. So with the conversation that went with that, that was changed so that all employees will be treated equally. And that if you want to wear a mask, you can wear a mask. If you don't want to wear a mask, you don't have to. And if you get sick, stay home, and we'll pay you to stay home, because, if we're going to protect people, everybody needs to have that opportunity to stay home and not to spread it. And what they did bring up was, one lady said she was a vaccinated employee, so she got the 10 days of paid COVID time. And she said it was between being able to stay home when she was really sick or having food on her table. And she said this way she didn't have to worry about it. So if you think about that with somebody that's totally vaccinated, having COVID, and saying that, what about the person that doesn't have the vaccination that gets sick? They shouldn't have to choose whether or not they're going to have groceries on their table. So the motion was made and it was passed, and now everybody will be treated equally. But that was the majority of the meeting right there.
Thank you. Now, did you have a meeting with the NACO telecom thing?
I did. So I stepped way out of my comfort zone and I joined a NACO committee for telecommunications and technology. And the reason that mainly that I did that is because that's where they go for their broadband, and we need help with their broadband. So I did sit in on the meeting. I sat on a couple of them. One of them was, they were talking, Ryan, I have to say that you are like, your staff, and you are so good, and you're on top of so many things, because they were bringing up things that we need to do to make sure with cybersecurity that we're covered. And our IT staff is on top of it. And so we're, having the, multi-factor. Yes, thank you. That was a big push. They talked about internet access, creating home opportunities. So we talked a lot about that. So that was the one meeting. And then I sat in on the technology committee meeting. They talked about the 911 system. and it's the next gen, and then text to 911, which we're going through Carlton on, correct? St. Louis County, yeah. So we've got that. The gov domain was a big conversation, and we've got that rocking. So I said our IT staff is on top of it with a smiley face. Thank you very much. The one thing that when we had Jack Freeman come, not Freeman, Freebie. When he came, I had sent a letter to Congressman Stauber and then to Tina Smith and Amy Klobuchar also about our not our ARPA funds, but our RDOF money that's going to be going to LTD, which is not going to be able to service our people. I mean, I think we're all with that understanding. So Bill Coleman had sent some mapping that talked about how much money LTD was going to get for the state of Minnesota versus any other one. And they're over 300 million. And the next one is 18 million. So that tells you how much they won in bids. And that's just in Minnesota. They bid nationwide. So we have a problem. So when my big out of the box comment is just give the money to the counties and let us pay. We've got the people that have their boots on the ground and they're shovel ready and they're ready to service our people. And so I brought that up at this committee meeting also. And I just sent it on a chat, but I was able to talk about that and how that would be able to free up that money and give us the responsibility to get the service that we need. So it was really good. I think it'll be a fun committee to be on, and that they talk about the benefits that you get when you're on that committee for your county. So I'm hopeful. Very.
Thanks for doing that.
Thanks, Terry, for doing that.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. I've got one other committee meeting. I went to Jobs and Training. They had a special meeting the other day, talk about workforce. I sat there for most of the meeting scratching my head because it seemed like the guy was saying stuff contrary to what the lady from Deed said during our AMC presentation. But and I got some clarification from Barb. Maybe it wasn't as contrary, but I think my takeaway in the end was that we sometimes feel like we're the Lone Ranger trying to find employees, and the people in our communities probably feel like the Lone Ranger when they're looking for employees, but it is throughout central Minnesota and actually all through the Midwest. I'm in Florida and they're experiencing the same things. But the thing I did tell Barb is the thing I've noticed in our communities in East Central Minnesota is the people that have adapted to maybe a little bit of a changing workforce, but adapted to bringing on a lot more high school kids and a lot more recently retired people have seemed to fill their workforce quite well. And the people that have added flexibility to their scheduling, where possible, to allow people to either work from home or to have flexible work schedules. And every job, like we just talked about earlier, doesn't allow for that. But those people seem to be doing okay. But nobody has found the cavern where all the workers have gone and been able to drag them out of wherever they're at. But it was an interesting presentation. So, anybody else have anything to report on? Check your upcoming meeting schedule and keep doing good work. Nobody, I don't hear anything else. We'll declare the meeting adjourned and thank you all.
Have fun. Thanks, Steve. Thanks.
Yep.
Bye.